Mordenkainen peers out of a patched window from the top level of his arcane tower, a cylindrical structure of both awe and perfect refinement. He takes a deep breath, ascending stone sitting beneath the balustrade just beside the window's edge, almost imperceptibly, waiting for his first words. There are truths so profound that to speak them aloud is to invite erasure, not death, mind you. Death is a certainty, a moment, a closing of the book. No, I speak of erasure, cold destruction, the sort of oblivion that leaves not even a whisper of memory in the folds of time. The Lady of Pain traffics in such truths. I have walked in Sigil. I have sat at the tables of devils and dined with solars under false moons in hidden courts. I have held the threads of entire realities in my palm and loosed them again without tremble. And yet, when I say this, no, I do not speak with poetry or fear, but precision. The Lady of Pain terrifies me, not in the way demons do with teeth and fire, or liches with their rancid rot of soul. The terror she evokes is that of perfect control. She is the still point in a turning multiverse, a wound in the logic of the planes, stitched shut by her presence. She says nothing, and yet everything bends around her silence. Many have asked me who she is. Fools, mostly. Or scholars so drunk on their own thoughts, they've forgotten the danger of curiosity. But I'm not without some measure of hubris myself. I sought answers, not for power or advantage. I am no hungry warlock whispering into ancient tombs. I sought it because the multiverse must make sense, and she does not. There are whispers, of course, that she was once a Tanarari, risen above her station, that she ignited the blood war itself and now plays spectator from her iron-throned balcony, that Sigil is her, or a dream she never awoke from. And we are all figments, wandering a thought too vast to comprehend. The governors claim she made the city. The ciphers say she is the city. The Doomguard suggests she is what remains when entropy reaches perfection. I say this. None of them are right, and none are wrong, because the Lady of Pain exists beyond fact. She is not a subject to be studied. She is the margin into which we write our ignorance. I once suspected a connection between her and the Raven Queen, not a friendship. Don't be ridiculous. The Queen, for all her mystery, still clings to scraps of identity, of personhood. The Lady does not, but there is resonance between them. Both claim dominions not even gods may grasp. Both watch the rise and fall of powers with a dispassion that speaks of deeper truths. If the Raven Queen is the silence after morning, the Lady is the silence before birth. Unreadable, impenetrable, and I'm convinced only she knows what the Raven Queen truly wants. That alone should chill the blood of any being who dares call themselves wise. Sigil is the fulcrum of the plains. I have seen angels and devils drink in the same tavern, watched Modrons march past Sladi without incident, all beneath her gaze. None worship her, none dare speak her name in praise, and still she is obeyed. Because all who live under her spiked shadow understand one thing. The Lady does not rule. She permits. She does not lead. She endures. And should that endurance waver, should she decide the balance no longer serves her whims, Sigil will burn and be rebuilt in the shape of her next breath. The gods dare not enter her domain. They send avatars, minions, aspects, but not themselves. Ask yourself, what being commands that kind of respect from the divine? Not Asmodeus, not even Ao, only she. I have watched her Dabus, those odd floating caretakers, scrape rust from iron walls with quiet diligence, as though smoothing her skin. They speak in rebuses, yet each symbol is a law, each glyph a warning. They are not solely servants, they are extensions of her will. I have seen what happens when fools rebel. The mazes, she calls them. Twisting, personal hells made to reflect the arrogance of those who opposed her. They are not prisons. They are corrections. I visited one once. Briefly. Never again. So, yes, I have studied gods. I have wrestled with demons, bargained with archfey, even argued with death itself in the grey halls of Lethe. But of all the entities I have encountered in this spinning chaos of planes and possibilities, only the Lady of Pain has ever convinced me of my smallness, and that is why I do not seek her out again, why I do not name her in my spells, nor scratch her sigil into my grimoires, because power is not loud, it does not boast or scream. True power is quiet, silent, inevitable, just like her. The lady, her serenity, the most high up of all of Sigil's bloods, is a mystery wrapped in an enigma. She never speaks, yet her will is plain to the Debus without a sound. What is the meaning of Our Lady's dread silence? No one knows. Her servitors, the Debus, don't utter a sound either, but their images speak for them. The strange symbiosis between the Debus and the lady has been commented on by more than one greybeard, but few are willing to go to the next step and suggest that perhaps the lady is one of the Debus. The Lady of Pain has been the ruler of Sigil as long as living and written memory tells us. Tales of only a few events of her long life have survived the passing of the years, and those events are all tied to the city that cages her. The full details of the secret history and intrigues of the lady has been left mostly unexplored by scribes, as her chroniclers has never been very profound. Her destruction of her enemies has always been swift and merciless. The lady has a very long history of defending herself and her city, using the mazes as the ultimate defense. But Our Lady has not always had access to the mazes, for she once cast pretenders to the throne of blades into Agathion, the third layer of Pandemonium. As recounted in the oldest known legend of the lady, 10,000 years ago, Shekelor, the greatest mage of that time in the city of Sigil, sought to increase his already formidable power. The tale tells that, like many others, he wanted to seize the lady's throne, but unlike others, he was cautious and wary, for many had failed him. He sought an almost successful usurper entrapped in Pandemonium, but in the end, the plane's dangers destroyed him, and he died burning from within before a crowd in the city courts. What's most interesting about the tale is how it hints that the lady hasn't always had the power to create mazes, which in turn implies that the power could be taken away from her. How that might be done, though, eyed darker than the bottom of the abyss. Some of the most recent troublemakers, according to scribes, were members of the faction called the Expansionists, who were destroyed when their leader was cast out into one of the lady's mazes. Vartus Timlin was the factal of the Expansionists, and his great influence was made even more so by a powerful sword named Lightbringer. However, when he began speaking openly of seizing power, deposing the Lady of Pain, and making himself the cage's center of control, both he and his blade were cast into one of the mazes. Little else is known about the lady's origins, but a few of her behaviors follow a pattern. The lady never speaks. Some say that she just doesn't waste her time talking to those who aren't her equals, and any equals would be cast into a maze. The lady appears almost human, although she most definitely isn't. She wears ornate robes that shroud her body, and a mantle of blades coated in blue, green verdigris surrounds her mask-like face. No one is certain who or what exactly the Lady of Pain is, but it's widely accepted she is a being on par with deities, strong enough to bar gods and their ilk from entering her city. To worship the lady is more than taboo. It is an unforgivable crime, punishable by imprisonment in the mazes. The lady maintains the cosmic neutrality of Sigil. The city doesn't take part in the blood war. It doesn't throw its weight behind the shining righteousness of Mount Celestia or contracts originating from the 9 hells. and it's never a battleground for the conflicts of material plane worlds. On rare occasions, the Lady of Pain drifts through the streets, hovering above the ground. Creatures that interfere with her are flayed by her stare or vanish into nothingness as she turns to face them. Wise travelers give the lady a wide berth, finding pressing business elsewhere as she passes by. Some locals claim that the lady's features occasionally take on a golden or steely sheen. Whether this is in response to threats to her city or other influences is a mystery. Residents of Sigil view the Lady of Pain with fearful awe. A distant guardian, she leaves the city's daily governance to the many factions that call it home. The Wizard Three sit around a familiar couch, once again pondering the facets of the multiverse, taught through the eyes of the planier expert Mordenkainen. We sit in a rare hour of quiet, and so you ask me about her. Very well. Let us set sentiment aside and speak plainly, as only those who've seen the hinge of the multiverse can afford to. The Lady of Pain is not a monarch, not a goddess, not even a creature in the conventional sense. She is a constant, a fixed equation in an unstable multiversal calculus. One does not reason with her. One does not worship her. One avoids her. And yes, Vecna learned this the hard way. He did what no deity has done before or since. He breached Sigil, not through cleverness or finesse, but with the arrogance of one who mistakes power for inevitability. When he pierced the city's defenses, reality trembled. The cage, once impervious even to divine will, was cracked like thin ice beneath the weight of a god's ambition. And what did the lady do? Did she rage? Did she call forth armies of Daybus or incinerate his essence outright? No, she waited, calculated, watched Vecna destabilize his own ascension by the very nature of what Sigil is. Because the City of Doors does not bend to will, it tests it. He was expelled, not simply removed, expunged. The kind of purging that rewrites the rules of engagement. The lady did not simply restore order. She rewove the planar, lattice, fortified the architecture of the multiverse itself. Portals shifted, pathways sealed. No longer did the city rest on assumption. Now, it stood on certainty. She made a scar into a bulwark. And that is the lesson. She is not concerned with individual transgressions. Murder, theft, petty chaos, none of these warrant her gaze. She is not a warden of morality. She is the arbiter of equilibrium. Threaten that equilibrium, and by extension, threaten her, and you are eradicated. Quietly, thoroughly. Illustrial, you see order and think of harmony. Tasha, you see chaos and think of freedom. But she sees only balance. Sigil is a crucible, not a cradle. Peace is not her priority. Continuity is. Hence, the daily entropy. The Daybus repair streets not because the streets must be clean, but because the rot must not consume. They do not serve her out of loyalty. They are expressions of her function. And I use that word deliberately. Function. The lady is not a ruler with a will. She is a rule incarnate. Like gravity, like time. You can interact with it. You can even bend it. But you cannot defy it without cost. And Sigil itself, Sigil, the paradox. A city that touches all planes, yet belongs to none. Every door a possibility, every archway a threat, portals woven into madness. A city where gods cannot tread, but murderers walk free. A city where law and chaos dance in the same alleys, and every street corner is one breath from revelation or ruination. That dissonance is the lady's design. She allows entropy to flourish at the mortal level, because it anchors the greater structure. The moment a force threatens the macrocosmic balance, as Vecna did, she acts. The four pains, agony, anguish, misery, despair, these are not punishments. They are levers, pressure points. She does not command armies or cast spells. She applies weight to reality until it conforms. You ask me if she can be defeated. The answer is irrelevant. Tasha, even you, brilliant, unpredictable, dangerous, would not be worth her time unless you tried to tear down the city itself. Illustrial, with all your grace and goodness, you still do not understand. The Lady of Pain is not cruel, nor kind. She does not care. And in a multiverse where everything schemes, hungers, or yearns, her indifference is what makes her the most dangerous entity of all. She is the cage, the door, and the silence between steps. So, speak her name softly, never directly, never in rhyme. And if ever you feel a shadow pass overhead in Sigil, do not look up. Some laws are better obeyed than understood. Mordenkainen raises a hand to craft a spell, weaving together a symphony of muted radiance as he traces a pathway through the space in front of him. You want to know what becomes of those the lady truly notices, not the petty thieves, not the knife wielders in shadowed alleys, not even the cultists and power brokers who mistake influence for dominion. I speak of those who, like Vecna, attempt to tilt the city, who gnaw at the girders of the multiverse. To them, she does not raise a hand. She does not whisper or glare, she mazifies them. Yes, that's the term the cages use, crude, but apt. The mazes are not prisons. They are verdicts, not sentences, but ends. When the lady deems one beyond correction. When execution would be too brief and exile too forgiving. She does something far more elegant. She removes them, not from Sigil, but from the rhythm of consequence. Imagine, if you will, a quiet street in the ladies' ward. A courtyard, perhaps, or a forgotten corner of the clerk's ward. The cobbles shift slightly. A doorway turns inward, where it never did before. The sod, some would-be tyrant, some clever arcanist who thought himself too smart for caution, steps through. And that's it. The street remains. But it's no longer in Sigil. It's been peeled off, like bark from a tree, cast adrift in the deep ethereal, where time has no teeth. It becomes a maze, a demiplane without beginning or end, coiled back on itself like a serpent swallowing its own ambition. No alarms, no spectacle. The lady doesn't grandstand. She simply erases. You see, the mazes mimic Sigil, but only to deceive. They resemble fragments of the cage, because they were fragments, plucked pieces of the city, distorted and looped into infinity. There's a philosophical debate, governors mostly, that they're still technically part of Sigil, just stretched across a dimensional curve. Nonsense, if you ask me. Or worse, true, in a way that makes the head ache. Even the cunning fear the mazes. They know they won't see them coming. Some refuse to walk alone. Some enchant every corner of their homes. Others stop sleeping altogether, fearing that when they next wake, the walls will no longer lead out. And they're not wrong. The lady waits, and when the moment is perfect, when you take one step too far or blink at the wrong corridor, she folds the world around you, like tucking a page into a book no one will read again. But here's the cruelest part. The mazes do not kill. Food and water appear. Sustenance, yes, but nothing more. Time passes in strange lurches. The prisoner wanders, always searching. And there is always a way out. One hidden portal. One invisible thread back to Sigil. No one ever finds it. Or maybe someone did, once. Maybe that's how we know about the portal at all. Perhaps the lady lets one soul slip free every few centuries, just so the rest will continue to hope. That hope becomes its own punishment. You begin by searching, then pacing, then muttering. The walls turn tighter, the memories fray. The maze becomes not a prison, but a mirror of the mind that dared defy her. That's the elegance of it. She does not destroy her enemies. She lets them. Mordenkainen, with a stern voice. So, what does the Lady of Pain teach us? Tasha, leaning back with a smirk, that if you're going to rule an entire city, do it in silence and look terrifying while floating. That presence does not need voice to be felt, and that peace does not always mean comfort, exudes Illustrial. Mordenkainen raises an eyebrow in objection. No, she teaches that power, true power, requires no validation, no court, no cult. She enforces order without demand, and when she acts, the multiverse listens. Tasha rolls her eyes. Oh, very ominous. The multiverse listens. Mordenkainen, if I wanted poetry, I'd summon a talking tree. Honestly, I don't know what's worse, a silent ruler or one who traps you in a maze for blinking wrong. Illustrial puts her hand on Tasha's shoulder calmly. She doesn't punish whims, only threats to the city's balance. Sigil endures because she allows it to. Her silence is mercy. Tasha looks back at Illustrial, a devilish smirk on her lips. Mercy? Have you seen those mazes? If that's mercy, I'll take my chances with a pit fiend. Mordenkainen, with a cold, calculated assertiveness. The mazes are precision. They don't kill, they isolate. She cuts away rot like a surgeon, not a tyrant. That's the difference. She isn't cruel, she's deliberate. Did you just compliment someone? Mordenkainen, are you feeling well? States Tasha in a mocking tone. Illustrial laughs softly. He respects her. That much is clear. You don't have to like something to understand its necessity. Correct. I respect that she wants nothing. Not worship, not power, not allegiance. In a multiverse of screaming hunger, she is the only force that does not crave, and that makes her unassailable. Tasha rolling her eyes once again. Ugh, that's so boring. But, fine. Mysterious, dangerous, fashionable. I'll give her that. Just remind me not to walk through any lonely courtyards in Sigil. Illustrial, with an air of elegance. Walk gently wherever you go. She may not speak, but she sees. Mordenkainen, with a final statement, proud and powerful. And if she turns her gaze on you, you've already lost. No longer can she tell where Sigil begins and it ends. No longer can she separate what she perceives from what the city is. She is Sigil, for she is the Lady of Pain.